This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. It is Friday. We are live. We are in person with you. Woohoo! Finally back to being live. Sorry about missing last night with Brothers in Arms. We ended up having a couple of technical difficulties that came up at the last minute and unfortunately had to cancel the show. But we will be live with Brothers again next week, Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we usually are. Tonight, we have a special guest joining with us, and I'll tell you what, this guy is amazing. He's a breath of fresh air. I love the man to death. He's absolutely glorious, and he also has his own show. We'll get into that here in just a second, but again, we are live, and if you want to call in tonight, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Our Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at LNM Radio Network. .com. We had a guest that was originally scheduled. I know that when I put out my schedules a couple of weeks ago, you guys saw that Nathan Seagal was coming on from the Thought Hackers. The Thought Hackers actually had me on their show about a month ago doing an interview about my book, When Good Relationships Go Bad, and sort of the traumas and the abuses that we can go through in our minds and stuff, and how to sort of maybe short circuit those a little bit. And it was a very interesting show. I loved the way that those guys worked, and he's had a lot of experience in that kind of field himself. So we were going to have him on here originally, and then kind of sort of out of nowhere, he ended up having to cancel, and we got him rescheduled here for the next few weeks. I think December 8th is what we were going to have him be rescheduled as. So in lieu of him, we have a special guest coming on who so graciously decided to come on sort of at that last minute. I put the call out, and he said yes, and I'm very grateful for it. I've had him on the show. Actually, he was part of the LNM Spookathon, and it was a real pleasure to have him on then. And he is back again. This is Chip Reichenthal. He has his own show, Kindness Beyond the Veil, which airs on Mondays at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here at the LNM Radio Network. And I would love for you guys to check his show out. It's an amazing show. He has awesome guests that come on. I love listening to the show. He replaced my show on Monday, so it's a worthy replacement for my show. But anyways, Chip Reichenthal, hey, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ira. It's such a thrill and an honor to be back. Thank you so much.
And,
I'm glad I gave you a little time off, at least for a couple of hours a week.
Absolutely, yes. It gave me more time to write.
Yeah, we got to get that right in, brother.
Exactly. So, Chip, for those that don't know you, and I'm sure most of the listeners out there do, but we always get new listeners that come in and everything all the time. So, for those that aren't aware of you, why don't we give a little brief introduction to the mind of Chip Reichenthal? Oh my God! Wait a minute, that's not a good idea, is it?
Well, yeah, there's no such thing. I'm a writer too, and I live with a wife and daughter, so I never get a word in edgewise. So this is my opportunity,
Radio shows are the only way, right?
Yeah, right. All right. Well, I guess the gist of it is, and I will make this short. I will. I have been looking into like paranormal and supernatural and psychic ability, UFOs and extraterrestrials, all that sort of thing for almost 40 years now. I got pulled into it on the eve of my 21st birthday. My best friend from all of childhood, he was my next door neighbor from a house I moved into from age 2 on. We were like twins. He was in a real bad accident. He was brain dead when they brought him in. He was down in Florida, and I at the time was in upstate New York. And long story short, he arrived to me at the moment of his death. It's like a long story, but needless to say, that's not what people said, death was like. And it was a very unusual experience. It took me a while to wrap my head around and kind of been looking into it ever since. But I came into paranormal from seeing my best friend. A lot of people come in from being something grabbing them in their room, or haunting them, or some sort of fear-oriented thing, and mine was a love-oriented experience. All of my experiences in the paranormal field have been kind and benevolent. I guess I learned early on to put myself in their shoes, so even if you have some earthbound that is a bit on the miserable side, we've all been miserable before, put yourself in their world and they don't kick you out. So it seems that there aren't many people in the field that came in the same way I did. So I'm trying to represent all of these fields with a love-based attitude rather than a fear-based one. I think we have enough fear in our everyday lives. Seems more and more as time goes on. So I wanted to maybe allow people to think that it's not all bad, it's not all evil, it's not all nasty, it's not all fear-oriented. There are benevolent and compassionate and positive sides to not only paranormal, but even extraterrestrials. A lot of people have had benevolent encounters with extraterrestrials. The psychic world, they're not all manipulators and cold readers and out to get you. So there are a lot of positive sides to these things, and we're coming into an age now where a higher vibration seems to be a thing in metaphysics to separate ourselves from all the lower vibrational energies of fear and that. So that's basically what my show represents on Monday nights, right here from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, Kindness Beyond the Veil. And we try to put a benevolent spin on all of these fields. And been doing pretty good so far. Happy with the show,
I love the show myself. It's so nice to see that softer, kinder side of the paranormal. For me, the paranormal is normal. I mean, I've said that so many times. It's
right.
It's sort of my go-to phrase, but it really is the truth. I mean, I've had so many different paranormal experiences over the years that it's literally just become a natural part of my everyday life. So it's nice to see that there are people that are out there like you that are coming at it from that positive attitude, because let's face it, the spirits are just like people. I mean, there's good and there's bad, and there's good and bad in every one of them. They're just they're just us.
As above, so below. Yeah. Well, it's the ghosts are people too type thing, and,
right.
And you and I are in a lot of agreement on most everything. You have a very deep insight into it, which I greatly appreciate. But I think at the end of the day, our conclusions are very similar, and that's kind of a neat thing to see.
It is, yes, definitely, it is. I love. That's one of the reasons why I love talking to you about it, because it's like I can feel comfortable speaking about whatever comes out because of that. You know, it's when you're talking to some people. Not necessarily with me here on the radio, because when I'm on the radio and I have a guest, it's always somebody that I know that I can at least agree mostly with, you know. But when you're talking on a personal basis with people, that's not always the case. You're going to encounter people that are very obtuse. Let's just put it to you that way.
I had more than my share of that, you know.
You know, and I had two of my ex-wives. I've had 4 wives now. Jelena's my fourth. She's wife 4.0. I upgraded in a big way when I went with that one. So I highly recommend, you know, getting a wife 4.0.
A fourth wife. Yeah.
It's like Encounters of the Fourth Kind. You know? Anyways, I'm
still on my first. I'll ask her what she thinks about that.
Hey, well, you never know. Anyways, you know, I had 2 of them that never knew the paranormal side of me. They never even knew that I could see or talk to spirits. I never talked to them about it because they were so dead set against anything that was of that nature, you know. And it's
pretty common, especially, you know, as the years go on, people get a little softer to it. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You know, there were years where I couldn't tell any of my deepest friends about any of that stuff. So I get that.
It's sad because, you know, especially for someone that's like me, it's such a big part of the life, you know. It's so there's this whole almost half of yourself that you can't talk to this person that you're supposed to be the closest with. It's very disturbing, you know, to have to deal with that kind of thing. I'm very grateful for Jolene because she's always endlessly fascinated by everything paranormal and the weird and the woo-woo. I mean, she's all, you know, whatever it is, she's into it. Although she has a dark side. She really loves the evil characters.
My wife too.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's that. But anyways, you know, with again the spirit realm, you know, that the veil, crossing the veil, you know, we always see people being so afraid of these things, and it's like this instantaneous fear that comes up. And one of the things I've tried to say that maybe it is that they're, you know, spirits when they pass, they're not always surrounded by love and light. They're not always, you know, surrounded by a family falling asleep in their bed and never waking up again. Some spirits, they crossed over by some very traumatic things, and so they're still carrying some of that trauma with them, I think. And maybe some of the fear and so on and so forth that people feel when a spirit is around is more of a projection that they're feeling from that spirit, as opposed to something that's coming from within.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think that it's how the entertainment industry has portrayed this. There's always been a fear-oriented thing. I mean, first it was the movies, and ghosts are always out to get you. And then it's the TV shows, and ghosts are always out to get you. And I do have some problems with some of these shows. You know, I'm not going to call them out. I understand they have a job to do, and I know a lot of the hosts on a lot of these shows, and they're the sweetest people in the world. So, but it is, you know, look, they're on a tight schedule. They have to travel all around the country to get things done in a very short amount of time. You know, I mean, an investigation, a real serious one, takes a good amount of time, but they also have to catch stuff for the camera, and you can't really do that by being nice to them. And it just follows this storyline that's been going on for decades, you know, that this is a fearful thing. It's an unnatural, supernatural thing. And, you know, it's sinful to even think about that stuff. And, you know, they're just wolf in sheep's clothing. If you have a nice spiritual encounter, it's just somebody that's trying to possess you by using your grace in order to get in, and things of that nature. And most of the people that come into the industry, again, come in from a place of fear, and they do buy into this stuff, but they are teaching the wrong message. And that's kind of why, you know, I have the show to provide a good alternative. You know, I mean, do your historical research, learn who lived there, who died there, what time period they were in. If you come across somebody from the 1800s, talk to them in the language and culture of the 1800s, you know. Don't flaunt your sci-fi equipment on them and say, oh, I got a bad feeling about this room, you know, because it just automatically sets things off, you know.
Well, you know, that actually brings something up. I've seen a lot of people using things like spirit boxes and those apps and that kind of thing. What do you think about those?
Well, I'm not a fan of apps. I will say that. When the apps first came out, what they did is they had a way to tap into your own microphone so they could pick up on the things that you were saying, and the answers from these, you know, ghost apps would pretend to answer you in real time based on what the app overheard you say. So if you said something about fire, their answer would have something to do with fire. If you said something about love, their answer would have something to do about love. And that really irritates me personally. Makes my blood boil, if you will. Spirit boxes I've used before. You know, they're a little loud, but they've done some very interesting things. I mean, we've had some really good conversations with spirit boxes. You know, they have some other things where they measure the frequency of the electromagnetics in the room, and with every minor change in frequency, they'll pick up a word. So they'll show you a word that is either based on just the physical change of energy in the room, or something that may be speaking with you in real time, and you generally learn to know the difference. You know, I'm more of a flashlight guy myself, and dowsing rods and memo recorders, because, you know, it's simpler. It's, I think, less intimidating to whomever you may be in contact with, because there is the possibility with what we've learned about physics, you know, and Einstein's relativity and space-time, they could be living people in a time warp that you're speaking to, and maybe they think you're the ghost. So maybe they're apprehensive of you because they think you're going to push them down a flight of stairs. You just never know.
Yep.
Because every single conversation is a different one. And so you just, if you interpret it as a great honor that anything or anyone will reach out to talk to you in real time from basically an interdimensional sense, you know, that's the greatest honor in the world. So I will offer them my respect. I will not judge, you know. Even if I'm talking to somebody that people think killed a bunch of people, there are divine figures to judge them. I'm not going to judge them. I'm going to honor the conversation. You know, I had friends that were in high school that ultimately grew up and killed people. But when I knew them, they weren't evil or nasty. You know, they were churchgoers. You know, they'd mow their next door neighbor's lawn and wouldn't ask for payment, you know, because they knew their next door neighbors couldn't do it. You know, so, I mean, everyone is a story. I'm not in law enforcement. It's not my job to judge, you know. So you just take things one step at a time.
Yeah.
And if you do your research, you know, you go to the county, the town clerk or the county clerk for whatever home that you're investigating, and you find history there. If you have enough time, you go to a county historian, see if you can get some further history, you know, and then you'll have an idea of who you may be coming across who died on that property or near that property or before there was property there.
Yep.
Well, you know, was there a civil war? Was there a French and Indian war? You know, I mean, were there Indians there? And I can't say Native American because if I talk to a Native American from the 1600s, they're not going to know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yes.
There wasn't political correctness back then.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. And I've definitely encountered that too with some of my ancestors that I've had encounters with. They're you know, they have no clue. They have no reference point to what you're trying to describe because they're not in.
You walk into a room and you say, "Hear ye, hear ye." I mean, if that's the language of the time, you know, then they'll understand. And they'll go, "Oh, somebody gets us."
Yes, you know? Exactly. You know, one of the things that we're lucky with here where I live, you know, here in Fort Wayne, Indiana area, we have one of the best genealogical departments in the world, let alone in America. I think basically New York and the big one that they have over in Utah supersede the one that we have here. But otherwise, I mean, people come from all across the world to investigate their history and their genealogy here. So it's a lucky circumstance, I think, that I'm here, because every time that I've had, encounters and I've wondered, well, where did this come from? What was this all about? I've had the opportunity to go there and see, something about what I encountered or who I encountered or whatever the circumstance was. So, there are things that are like that, for instance, like what you were just saying, kind of historians or, if you guys have a good genealogy department or something like that at your library.
Which is great. We have one where I live, but I live in upstate New York. We have a lot of valleys here. So the weather changes, minute by minute. I mean, it could be raining across the street from you. And well, we've got sunshine, it's that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it plays with the electromagnetics. It really does. It has a great impact on it. And it's good to have a genealogical agency or society near where you are, especially one that is so highly regarded. It's a good thing, and it comes in. It helps a lot.
It really does. Yeah. We're with spirit boxes. I wanted to toss this out here for everybody. On our network here at LNM Radio Network, we have a show, Paranormal Soup. He airs on Sundays at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we kind of replay him here and there through the week like we do the rest of the shows. But one of the things that he specializes in, he has what he calls the ITCC, and he goes like I think it's once a month they do this, where they gather together 4 or 5 usually different people that have different types of spirit boxes that are out there on the market. And they each connect up to, so that you can hear it over the radio and everything, and allow people to call in to see if they can get into contact with people that they used to know, So it's really interesting, some of the results that have come out of it. They go through later with the questions and everything that the person was asking in mind, and see if they can find legitimate answers, and invariably they end up finding a lot of really great stuff with these spirits responding to these things. So yeah, I think there is definitely validity when it comes to the spirit boxes, and he's doing a really good job of trying to prove that kind of thing out.
Yeah, and it's brilliant because he's also adding radio waves,
yes,
and also microwaves, because if there's a satellite signal involved, it is internet after all, so you have all that extra energy built in, and that would help.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Very interesting.
And there have been actual times where he's done the show and the voices didn't end up coming out over the spirit boxes, but they came out on the recording of the radio show that he did.
Yeah.
So very interesting things end up happening with it.
Wow. So you really have to listen to the replay on that.
Exactly. The interesting thing though is that, I'm convinced that at least in large part, these people are very electromagnetic in nature. I mean, we ourselves are very electromagnetic in nature, so it makes sense that is still a thing, on the other side.
It does, and it's a bigger thing than most people think, especially because the living and the electromagnetics that surround them, the New Agers call it an aura. But it is a physiological thing. I mean, we are electric. We're 85% water. We have, synapses firing with electrical signals through our brains and nervous systems. So we are electric. We do beam out about 6 to 10 inches minimum of our electricity. And with that comes our beliefs, our preconceptions, our moods, And sometimes that's why you can stand next to somebody on a sidewalk or on a bus and get a bad feeling about them, because, their energy is projecting negative and yours is projecting positive, or you're just positively charged and they're negatively charged, even if you both are in like stable moods, It's that sort of thing. But it also feeds in to a paranormal setting, because it is really all about electromagnetic energy.
Yeah, it's like with people that are empathic. One of the things that I've tried to come up with as a quote solution to the problem of empathy, or being an empath, is, okay, let's put it to you this way. Again, like you were just saying, we send out waves of energy off of ourselves all the time. When you break it down to it, we are nothing but energy. We're made up of these atoms that are scattered around all over the place, and
Yep.
hell, if you break it down even further from that,
everything's solid, everything liquid, everything gaseous.
Everything. And if you break it down even further to the quantum level, we're nothing more than quantum particles floating around that are deciding what we're wanting for dinner. That's just, that's all we are.
And a lot of spooky action at a distance.
Yes.
Which is part of the thing that goes on with the.
And what we do, I think, is people that are empaths. I think everybody is. I hate using that term, but
big time.
I think everybody is.
My solution was just staying home.
I've gotten to that point myself, Chip. I don't go very often outside. But when you're connecting up with somebody, there's a really simple explanation. Whenever you look at something or something looks at you, there's photons that are sent out from our eyes. Literally, the photon is created in the brain and it's sent out to bounce off the target of whatever it is that you're looking at. So you're picking up literally upon the energy of that other person that is around you. And it's kind of a thing of, I think, a quantum entanglement issue that's going on. With quantum entanglement, these two particles that are kind of duplicates of each other, if you do something to one, the other one has the exact same thing occurring to it. So with that in mind, with the empathy kind of thing in mind, we're feeling the energy that the other person is generating through that energetic particles that have now become a part of our existence, part of our very being.
Yeah. I think part of that is what you do with it. Just like, we had a show about faith not long ago, and it really comes down to, and we talked about for 16,000 years, there's been a concept of light and dark and good and evil. And it comes down to what you do with your faith. I've seen extremely faithful people do horrible, horrible things, and I've seen agnostics or atheists do wonderful things. So it all comes down to what you do with it. Same with the empathy. I mean, same with just about anything you do in life, I think. And I think both of us being empaths, we're kind of starting to see a difference now. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of unsettled energy, that people are just swimming in. I mean, I say this an awful lot. People are walking around with their heads down. And there's going to come a point, and it started already, where people are going to start picking their heads up and they're going to look for inspiration, look for things to get them out of this box of fear-based living. And you can start to see the separation a little bit. So I know your life is miserable. What are you going to do about it? It's not always that simple. Look, I mean, I know we were going to talk about abuse situations in a paranormal setting. I've dealt with a lot of those, but in a living setting too. I mean, there are things. We all have our crosses to bear. Mine is a health-based issue, but a lot of people come from, they're trying to separate themselves from some abuse situation. It's not an easy thing to do. You can't, it's not like, hey, just do it. It's not quite that simple. And that carries on both sides of the spectrum also, living or dead. You see some earthbounds that are still more abusers probably than the abused, but still you do see it, and I'm fortunate enough where that has never happened to me, and that has never been something that I've been a part of either,
Yeah.
But because we're empathic, we come across a lot of people who have been, and we're like we have their back, they have our ear. You know what I
well,
mean?
you know,
I mean,
Chip, what I look at empaths like us is you know, there are people that are out there that can lay on hands and heal the body. I think that empaths, we're the healers of the soul. You know, we're the healers of the emotions, the traumas that people have gone through. That's our purpose. We're there to lay those hands on and help them to heal from those wounds, because those wounds can go just as deep, if not deeper, than the physical.
Oh, sure. And I take it as an honor, you know?
Yep.
And it's not an easy life.
No.
You know, but it seems to be easier than some of the things that our friends that come to us are going through, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But the hard part is not to take that on, because I know a lot of caring people who are, you know, the ears for others. And some of their stuff bleeds into ours. And
it does
we
if you let
start
it, yeah.
feeling it as though it's our own battle, or we want to, you know, be there to fight for them. And it becomes our fight, and we kind of leave our own lives behind. And we have to be reminded every once in a while, you know, that we have to spoil ourselves too. We have to look for our own path forward rather than take on everybody else's. It's kind of a quagmire.
Yes.
You know.
You know, one of the things I call people that are like that, you know, because I was that way for a very long time myself. It's only been a few years, really, in the circumstance of time that I've changed this kind of thing. But I call them the wild empaths. You know, they're sort of untrained. They don't know exactly how to disconnect themselves from that other person. You know, and there are unfortunately a lot of people out there that take on their own roles as being energy vampires, and they'll use people that are empathic to sort of, you know, absorb that energy from that person. So
I think narcissists are attracted to empaths.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a two-way street that goes nowhere, really.
It is a two-way street that, it is toxic, but you know, we learn too late. But you know, but we can't grow wisdom without making mistakes, you know? I mean, we have to make mistakes. The toughest part of being a father is
all part of the story.
Let your kids make mistakes, you know? That's a hard thing to do, because we want to be there every step of the way. You know, we're even taught that, you know, that's what we do. And,
especially as guys, that's what we're taught, especially, you know. You know, one of the things I think is important is that, especially for those that are going through this kind of stuff, we're actors on a stage. You know, this is the play that we're playing, and it's part of the storyline that we're telling, but we're not the parts. The who we are is something different. You know, we're the actors, we're not the part. And I think that because of physicality being so in your face, you know, all the time, it's hard for us to remember or to disconnect from that a little bit, you know. Sort of, we've all become very professional method actors. You know how a method actor, they get onto the stage or they get onto the you know, in front of the camera, and they are the part. You know, they everything about them has become that part, but they're not really that. You know, they're just so good at it. And I think that's what we are right now. Is we're these actors that are on this stage, and we've just forgotten that we're playing the part. You know, and once we cross over, most of the time, I think we remember it, you know, but there are times I think where we encounter spirits that have maybe not even come to terms with that yet themselves. What do you think about that?
Well, I have, you know, and look, it's not all that different, you know, if you have a connection to spirit, whether earthbound or crossed over, you know, the crossed over, I think, is a different energy altogether.
It is, yeah.
But earthbound, certainly. A lot of the people, they don't know they're dead. A lot of them are there because they believe they deserve to be there. You know, suicides. Not all of them, but
not all. But there are a lot that are that way. Yeah, they've
sure.
Sort of put
and look, and if you're
box.
even if you talk to somebody who's crossed over and you ask how they died, you know, sometimes you can feel small sensations in general areas.
Yeah.
So you get an idea. And sometimes you feel them a little too much, and that's not them, that's you, you know. Just like if you talk to them about their issues. You know, if you talk to an earthbound, if you get enough of a relationship with one where you can talk to them about why they're still here. You know, a lot of them, again, don't know they're dead, and they don't know what you're talking about when you say that. But the ones that made a conscious choice to are usually more abusers than abused. There's a lot of abuse in situations like that. But mostly it's a lot are people of faith that believe that they have sinned and don't have the right to go into the light.
Or afraid to.
But they have to forgive themselves, you know. It's not up to God or Jesus or who are, you know, Allah, whoever they look up to. It's up to them. You know, the light comes for everybody. And if they don't feel worthy, they don't go, you know, but they always could. So they have to figure their own stuff out. It's almost ironic because, you know, part of going into the light is, you know, you have to learn what you've done right and what you've done wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, so there is that on either side of that light spectrum on the other side. But it's really up to the individual. And if they don't feel like they deserve to be with a deity of some kind, a divinity, a god, then they're basically godless. And that's why they stay away from the light. If that makes sense.
It does indeed. Let's hit a break here real quick. When we come back, I want to get more into this topic because one of the things I wanted to discuss with you was this idea of spirits that have trauma associated with them.
Sure.
So when we come back, we'll get into that. If you guys want to call in tonight, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Our Skype line is JDA Film. We are over in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com, as we always are. And we're also over on YouTube, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Come on over, join in with us. And yeah, it's always a great time in the chat rooms, and yeah, it's amazing. So anyways, come on over and join in with the community. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks.
Ben Franklin said, if you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today. Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com because things really do need to change. There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of latenightinthemidlands.com and help us help you.
Open Eyes Network now airs a live simulcast on YouTube. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network, features not just our live content, but other videos as well, and is always active. So now you can tune in many different ways. Open Eyes Network shows air Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live. Be sure to visit OpenEyesNetwork.com to find easy-to-use links to get to all of the places that you want to listen to our shows. And don't forget, all of our shows will now be archived as well on YouTube. From the author of Silent Steps and Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown, comes a story so chilling it will haunt you for years to come.
Krista is a young woman escaping her past, running away from her family, her traumas, and her God, hoping to find a new life in a different town. But when she is forced to make a horrible choice, she comes to realize malevolent entities have controlled the true darkness she has been a part of. That is when her real terror begins. Penitence is disturbing and evocative. It will tear down the walls between what is real and what is nightmare. Penitence is the new novel by the man called the new master of speculative fiction, Ira Robinson. Find it and all of his books at his website, originalworlds.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we have our special guest with us, Chip Reichenthal. Great guy. Love this man to death. Hopefully you guys are enjoying tonight's show so far. I know I am. I always look forward to having Chip on with me. So anyways, we are back, Chip. And if you guys want to call in tonight, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. We'd love to hear from you guys about your own experiences. What do you think about this stuff? Do you think that we're crazy? Maybe we are. Well, I have always said I am the strangest person that I've ever met, and I do try to prove it every day. So anyways, Chip, we are back. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, we're loving the strange. And I know all those ads, except for the last one, because I hear them every week.
You do,
on,
yes.
On my own broadcast, yes, I do.
Indeed. I need to have you make a promo for yourself so I can play it on the show.
Yeah, I have to do that.
For those of you guys that are just tuning in, Chip has his own show, Kindness Beyond the Veil. You can find that on our network, LNMRadioNetwork.com. That airs on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's got a great show. Love the work that he does and the guests that he has on. They're always fascinating and absolutely fabulous. So anyways, we do have a call that's coming in, and we'll go ahead and bring them in here real quick. I do believe this is our longtime frequent flyer, Jessica. Is that you, Jessica?
Yeah, I'm one of the recent frequent flyers. I've been calling a lot this week to you guys.
You have. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I really appreciate you guys talking about this. I mean, being like, you guys know, being empathetic, you know what I'm trying to say.
Empathic, yes.
There. And, Ira, what we talked about too over the phone, it just really makes sense. And it really does. And I just so glad that, now as I'm growing older, that I'm learning, hey, you can be that way, but you also need balance. Learning how to say no. Learning to get away from those kinds of people that drag your energy out. Putting a light around you. And so forth. And keeping yourself grounded. And I think that's amazing lesson to learn. And as long as you can learn that the earlier, the better. And I look at it this way, as like, man, I wish someone could have told me this, like, when I was a teenager. Because, I could have actually dealt with different things a lot better.
Yeah.
And, I just have to say, I think there's another book coming your way, Ira, and I think you should make it about being empathic and what you need to do and how you do it. And
there you go, Ira.
You're giving me ideas. Suggestion. Yes, indeed. And I covered that a little bit in Haunted: Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. I went a little bit into the empathic side of things, but not much. I definitely should dedicate a little bit more to it, though, because I do get a lot of people asking me questions and needing assistance when it comes to being an empath. And I'll tell you what, I've gone through trial by fire with my own journey with it. And Chip, I'm sure you have as well, that you've encountered a lot of things over the years.
Even tougher trying to live life as a nice person, you know? Because you're always, nice guys finish last, it's not a guy thing. Nice people finish last. And I decided I'd rather finish last. I'll take my nicety, because at least it's integrity to me. When you come across people, just like you were saying, that take advantage of that, then if they have crossed a line, you no longer have to be nice to them, because they will prey on that, and they will keep you in their web by appealing to your niceness. And you just say, if these people aren't doing nice things for me, then why should I do nice things for them? I gave them a chance. Everyone's a blank slate. You give everybody an opportunity, and once they cross that line, they're done.
Yep. I have a question. It's been kind of lingering, and I've always wanted to know, okay, now, when you guys talk about spirits that cross over or that are earthbound because they're afraid, have you guys come across spirits who maybe committed suicide, and that, do they say that they have to stay on this earth until some years, or, I was always taught that you don't commit suicide, that's a big no-no.
Just like everything else in life, Jessica, it's a choice that we can make. It's not necessarily right. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just the choice that we make.
And it depends on the person that did that, and how they feel about their act. And then, of course, they have to see those that survived them and what they have done.
Yeah, they get a lot of
those
guilt
that survived them. It's generally something. It's rarely really, really thought out. I mean, I know a lot of people that have thought about doing it. Just about everybody I know has thought about doing it, at one point in their lives, but never acted on it. It's the acting on it that's the thing. And every single person in that situation is different. I have worked with suicides that have crossed over.
Yeah.
And I have worked with suicides that haven't. And most of them are faith-based. They have been taught by their dogmatic beliefs that it is sinful. And that's what stops them more than anything else. But what I've found, the real question is, did they cheat God by taking themselves out before their time? Or was it their time? Were they destined to die on that day at that time, whether by their own hand, by the hand of someone else, by injury or illness? And that's the big question. But the answer, I think, to your question really depends on the spirit, because I have seen both, and I have even crossed some over, and it took some time. It wasn't an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to forgive yourself for something than it's harder to, as it is to forgive somebody else. Just like if we're talking about being empathic, that means we're there for other people's problems, but we are not very good at solving our own problems. We're great with other people, but when it comes to us, forget it. So
I wish I could be my own empath sometimes.
Right? Yeah, me too. Yeah. I got to get a new mirror, that talks back to me, and says, Chip, I know how to solve this for you. But it's very similar to that. I mean, this is a problem that they themselves find themselves in, and it's really up to them to believe themselves worthy of crossing. Sometimes they just stay behind because of the guilt they feel of those that survived them, that are depressed over this. So they want to try to make up for the act by finding a way to be a guardian angel for those that survive them.
And if nothing else, if the person is feeling the presence of them, then they feel that that's good enough that they still have some kind of interaction there with that, with the people that they left behind, and so it's kind of a becomes sort of an entrapment thing for them in that as well. Again, when Chip, I'm gonna throw this out there. We have another call that's coming in, so we'll bring them in here in just a moment. But one of the things that I guess comes to my mind with this is, from my own experiences dealing with the other side, there is no judgment on the other side other than the judgment that we are giving ourselves. There's no right, there's no wrong, it's no judgment, it's just there. It's like information is neither positive or negative.
But how many living people believe that, though?
See, that's the problem, because the problem becomes a factor when our belief systems are carried over to that other side, and we're still kind of entrapped within that and having a hard time coming to terms with it all. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Again, well, basically what I said, because it really comes down to, and I agree with that, but at the same time, there are angels, there are demons, there is.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
A God,
Yep.
depending on even a lot of agnostics would believe.
Yep. Agnostic
that,
here.
It's one source. Everything is interconnected.
Yes.
And something has to be that interconnector, and something had to create this universe or these universes or all these stars and planets and energy and life forms, and atoms and particles and all this sort of thing. So it really comes down to individual beliefs, and it's kind of a trap, I mean, nor would I say that it's not a sin, because, it is to somebody.
Yep.
And
Right.
And you don't want to encourage that. So, oh, great, it's not a sin.
Right.
Let's all,
Right.
So, I'm not going there.
That's why
we're talking about, spirit and those that haven't crossed over. But I do know a lot of suicides that have crossed over as well.
Yeah.
And
that's why I sort of hedge things by saying it's a choice. It's the choice that they made. I'll be honest with people. I tried to commit suicide 33 times in my life. And it was when I was very young, and I was going through a lot of the different traumatic experiences that I had, as well as a lot of the problems that I was dealing with, religiously, and with the empath kind of stuff going on, everything sort of piling on at once. Now, I didn't succeed, obviously. Maybe I did. Maybe I am just a spirit that's talking to y'all right now. Wouldn't that be interesting? But anyways, it was just, it was a bad decision. I wouldn't do it now. There's no way that I would at this point in my life. I've learned to cope in ways that I didn't have then. I didn't have, those coping mechanisms during that period of time. And so, I look back on my life at that point in time, and I don't regret my choices that I made, because they've led me to the point in life where I am right now, where I have this wonderful life. I have this wonderful wife. I have these wonderful kids. I have, all these really great things going for me. And yeah, sure, there might be bad things that are here too. But at the same time, if I felt any kind of anger or resentment over either myself or what other people did to me or anything along those lines, that would mean that it would diminish the joy that I currently have, because I'm not going to be as grateful or be as appreciative of what I have right now. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And look, I haven't tried it once, but I completely understand what you mean. And every good choice and bad choice that we make ultimately makes us who we are.
Exactly.
Gives us wisdom.
We do have the other callers that are there on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. Jessica, did you have anything else that was on your mind?
No, I was just going to say I'm going to get off.
Okay.
And I'm sorry that I called way too much lately.
We love hearing from you.
It's you, Jess. It's all good here.
Yep. Thank you for calling in, Jessica.
It's not my show, but I'm still saying it.
Okay. Have a good night, you guys. I'll keep on listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right,
thank you, Jessica. Bye-bye. So I do believe the other callers that we have here on the line is our friends, family, brother and sister. I don't know who it is, Katie or Daryl or Daryl. I don't know which one. One of the Neelys is there with us.
I have to say, it is Odin.
Hey there, Mr. D. How you doing tonight?
Katie, that's wonderful to hear from you.
It is indeed, Katie.
Jim, I'm going to get you for that one.
I know you are. That's my producer right there, man. How you doing?
Hey. I love y'all, and I have a question for the paranormal investigators within you both.
Okay.
Now, I was on a phone call with another host that's coming up, Jackie Chan, and we were talking about those individuals out there that are using magic to gather or to gain energies. Okay. Now, in my ideology, I say don't do it unless you have been trained to do it or have been gifted in a way that you have knowledge of what you're doing. And sometimes you get people that want to bind spirits, ghosts in that area. Now, my question is... What do
you mean bind them?
Hold them to an area or to bring them into existence.
Oh.
Now see, we're getting into a deeper topic now, guys. So my question is, what would both of you give as a universal statement to individuals that think that they can go out there and be like the witches in the craft, or out there summoning spirits, or out there trying to use those little spell books, or quote unquote the YouTube how-to guide, or to make their desires come true, or summon spirits into this world.
Well, I'll tell you what, Daryl, my personal thoughts, and I'll just do this real quick and then hand it over to you, Chip, but my personal thoughts are, would you walk into somebody's house and do that to them? Would you walk into somebody's house and put a collar around their neck and chains on their legs or their hands and say, you're coming with me whether you like it or not? That's really what it all comes down to. We have to, when we're dealing with the spirit realm or those that have crossed over, they're us. They're us, absolutely. And you have to build up a relationship with them. You have to get to know them, become friends with them, make them, trust you before you'll even get anything out of them most of the time. Anyways, Chip, go ahead with yours.
Okay. First and foremost, I have difficulty assuming that anybody can bind, even a master magician could bind someone who has crossed over. But as far as earthbounds go, what is their purpose for doing this, first of all? Is it to look better to somebody else? Is it for a superficial motive like that?
Prestige would be a lot, yeah.
In which case... they should be careful. Another thing is what process they use. I mean, you're talking about binding, and that's usually either gray or black areas of magic. Look, I'm not in any particular coven. I'm not really good with magic, but I know people that do, and most of the ones that I know or at least talk to have been white magic practitioners. A lot of witches that I know are very religious in a lot of ways, and it's all about the elements of nature, and elementals have a lot to do with interdimensional things like ghosts and spirits and angels and fairies and things of that nature. So it really depends on what process they're using. But if they're actually trying to bind something or bring something in that didn't want to appear there on their own, then they should be very careful, because, it's like the careful what you ask for type of thing.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not really, if they haven't done it for a long time, to know what the ins and outs are. Magic is a very tricky thing.
Yep.
Yeah, of course, you got to start somewhere, and you have to try with some things. But I've seen a lot of people with Ouija boards that aren't really sure what they're doing and invite something in that has no business being there and will not go readily. But if they're actually trying to bind or imprison, or bring something in and not release it, that can't end well. that really can't end well.
It's not gonna be pretty. The phrase that goes through my mind over and over as you were talking there, Chip, is vengeance is mine, saith the Spirit. You know, it's like you're dealing with something that can go anywhere, do whatever. You know, I mean, there's a lot of power that's there on the other side. You know, and
time and space. They're not restricted. You know,
exactly, and you're gonna be dealing with something that is, you know, going to be very pissed off at what you're doing. Yeah. So, you know,
if you do the same thing to a possum in your front yard, how do you think the possum's going to react?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good way of putting it. And another question I have for you, now that I've introduced this topic, which cases could you document that's in your mind right now would be the hardest cases to rid of when it comes to ghosts and spirits in a home? Would it be harder to rid a ghost, an angry spirit, or a spirit that is also combined with a demonic spirit within that spirit?
Well, that's an easy one for me to answer, but Ira, you first.
Well, anytime that you're dealing with a demonic spirit, you're dealing with something that is going to be extremely tenacious, to say the least. I mean, that's an understatement. You're dealing with something that is very stealthy, guileful in the way that it acts, in the way that it persuades, the way that it interacts. And most of the time when you're dealing with that kind of thing, you can try to get rid of it, and you'll think that you've gotten rid of it, but you actually haven't. It's just gone into stealth mode, to put it, you know, in a weird kind of way. And when everything is clear, the smoke is cleared, it's popped right back up. And it's not only popped back up, but it's brought friends. So, you know, you're dealing with a pretty ugly situation just whenever you're dealing with anything that's of the demonic sort of realm. And you know, it's like whenever, Daryl, you've heard me talk about this before. Whenever you're dealing with energy, if you want to change the energy or to try to reverse the energy that's going on, you can't hit it with the same energy. You can't take care of evil with evil. You've got to hit it with the exact same amount or more of quote unquote good or positive or light or however you want to put it, you know, energy, as it took to create the situation that was formed to begin with. So anyways, Chip, I'll let you gab on.
Yeah, I think, you know,
another question, but okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right, man. We love you, man. It's all good, you know, here.
Because the next question, I already know what Chip's going to say. Don't mess with demonic energy.
Well, not necessarily. No, not necessarily, because there are there are situations where you're living in a place that was built from the ground up by somebody who's there.
Yeah.
And your family dynamics, especially if they're, well, what family dynamic isn't screwed up? But
we're all dysfunctional in some way.
The family dynamics will brush against the spirit's peace of mind, and they'll act out there. And that's a situation that doesn't change and can grow and grow and grow. You know, naturally, the one with the demonic attachment would be the toughest one to remove, because it's got a demonic attachment, and you'd need a specialist to come in for that. Yeah. You know, you can't really do that on your own. But another thing I wanted to add to all three situations, which could be in some cases very hard to reverse, is the way you see them. And I just wanted to, let's say the three of us, we're all guys here. We're in a nightclub. We're looking at the pretty girls walk by. Some of them are looking back at us, and we feel pretty good about that. I think I've used this example before, but you've got this couple 3 stools down from us that are starting an argument, and the argument is escalating into a fight, and bar fights are bad news. But as the fight escalates, everybody that's talking in this bar around us stops talking, and everybody's focusing on this couple fighting now.
Yep.
And everybody can feel the energy of the room change. It's significant, because it's gone from, you know, fly by the seat of our pants and have fun to, you know, there's a problem here. And all the blood starts going to our limbs so we can defend ourselves.
Yep.
And away from our brains. So we are literally less apt to think logically in a situation like that. So if you go into either one of those three situations that you pointed out, especially if you live in a place like this and something is, starting to throw things around the room or whatever the case may be to put you in a fear mode, fear mode, you're automatically put into a defensive stance. It's a physiological thing, so you're not thinking straight. So the decisions you make may not be good decisions, which makes the problem even more entangled. So actually, my answer could be all three, but the most obvious one is the one with the attachment, because, that also adds to your fear, so you're going to be even less logical, but it's also a lot more difficult, at least on the face of it, not knowing the situation, to tackle.
One thing I will add into that too, Chip, is that when those bar fight kind of situations, whatever, I mean, anything, any kind of escalating situation like that, the people that are observing are feeding into it just as much, because as they're feeling those energies themselves, it's building up in themselves, and they're feeding it.
Puts all of them in, and nobody's thinking in a situation like that, except maybe the bouncers. I DJ'd nightclubs for about 20 years. I love my bouncers, man.
They're kind of specially trained to be able to handle that kind of thing.
Just go in. They go into a place everybody else is running from.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a cop or a firefighter. I always say when it comes to the police or firefighters or military, that are doing that kind of thing, it's like that's a special kind of mindset, because when the gunshots are going off, they're running to it
too. I mean, these people, they see things that most people would not accept under any circumstances, and some of them see it daily.
Some of the spirits that I've dealt with, Chip, that have been that were like police officers here on this side of life, they're carrying a lot of that weight with them, on the other side, until they cross over. Sure. It's hard. Yep. Daryl, what else did you have?
Okay, well, the last question is the determination of good and evil spirits. Yes, I'm dwelling into a thought process now, guys. See, I'm bringing up a tough question.
I don't. What do you mean by determination?
Who determines whether the process of a spirit itself is good or evil? Because that right there is an independent eye's view. Okay. Maybe this situation is needed for a destiny or a fact to occur, or it's something that is needed to make this individual a better person.
I can put it in my own kind of terms just briefly, and I'll toss it to Chip. Everything, all things that happen, everything that exists, it's all in the hands of God. So if there's evil or good, it's all in the hands of God, and it's being used for a purpose. So,
Okay. And I will respectfully disagree with my beloved brother.
I figured you would. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's up to the person. It's up to the soul of the person. I think if the person, we were talking about suicides not long ago here and in spirit, and a lot of them stay earthbound, or abusers or abused stay earthbound because they don't feel worthy of crossing. The afterlife is a kind of place where it's where like-minded people end up with other like-minded people. So those who feel as though they deserve to go to hell will end up with a lot of other people that deserve they should go to hell, and those who feel like they deserve the promised land will be with others who deserve the promised land. But in my experience dealing with people who have crossed and who haven't, a lot of the people who haven't don't know they're dead. So we'll take that away from this answer, but it's really up to the person. It really is. If they feel godless, then they won't go into the light.
I was more referring to the actions that people are taking. The situations that they find themselves in. Everything is for a reason. It's my way of saying everything happens for a reason. It's lessons. Lessons that we're learning, that we're going through. Sometimes we have to face darkness, sometimes we have to face light, so on and so forth. So that's I was just kind of like giving a quick answer to the situational sort of goods and evils. But as far as spirits go, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is on their own part. You know, it's like maybe you can confirm this or deny this or whatever, Tip. In my experiences when dealing with the other side, what I've come to learn happens when people do the crossover is they experience a period where they go through the hurts that they've caused to other people. Mm-hmm. They experience themselves as if they were that other person, so that they can better see the effects or the impacts that their actions throughout life took.
You're talking about those who have crossed over, yes?
Right, the one when they cross over, right?
Yep,
and it's an instantaneous thing. You know, there's no, you're not stuck there for eternity or whatever the case may be. But you know, it's a way for you to learn, your spirit to grow, you know, learning the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's made mistakes and committed sins and committed crimes.
Right.
I mean, everyone. So, and do they have a conscience about it or not is part of it. And if not, they will afterwards.
Yes, right, right. That's what I was meaning, yeah.
But with the living, I mean, let's take somebody from ISIS, for example, who we think are just committing horrid things, you know, bringing fear to innocent civilians. But to their own people, they're heroes, you know.
And to themselves, they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, they're going to have the 40 virgins and the honey and rivers of honey and oil and all that stuff, and you know. So, and I've seen. Why we're not just talking about people of Muslim faith. I mean, I've seen Christians and Catholics who are Bible preaching, but you know, beat their kids violently, you know,
or turn around and hate because somebody's gay or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
And in the name of the Lord to make other people's lives miserable. So,
everybody, I think everybody, no matter who you are, you have the potential to be a terrorist to somebody. You know, I mean, everybody's going to be against something of you, and you're going to always be against something of somebody else.
So we've all made mistakes, and some have made more major mistakes than others.
Right, exactly.
You know,
yep.
Killers, for example, are branded for life and throughout the rest of history.
Yep.
For that one act, you know, when they could have done a lot of good things before that one act. You know, suicide's very similar, at least to the living. You know, before that one act, a lot of good things. So who's really judging them?
Themselves.
The only person who can really judge them is the divine, in the end. But who better to judge yourself than yourself, right? I mean, especially when you're faced with the harms that you've done. You know, the when you're seeing it through the eyes of that other person, you're actually living through the eyes of that other person that you caused harm to. And maybe even from there, the people that you know, like, okay, as an example, this was one of the experiences that I had dealing with the spirit. They were in the lives of their children. They were abusive to their children as they were growing up. And those children then also became abusive to their children when they grew up. So what he was ending up experiencing was the hurts that he caused not only his own child and the harms that, you know, he did directly, but the indirect harms that he caused by creating this psychological condition in his child to do this to his children as well. So he was living the experiences of that child plus those other children, and you know, it's a snowball effect.
But I mean, was he the first one in his family to become an abuser?
No,
because generally
in fact,
speaking, these are people who were abused in the first place.
Exactly.
Pass that cycle along. So who started it?
And that's it. Exactly.
Started it?
Yep.
That's the question.
That's what I ended up having to go through with him. I had to teach him to forgive himself because he was he was carrying the guilt of doing this, but he also didn't acknowledge that he got that because of his father. You see what I mean? So it's.
But I think we're in a situation also to dwell on this question where people are. It's almost okay now to be divisive, to divide, to people are allowed to hate those that they fear now.
Yeah.
It's almost there. It's like this gift that has been opened, and it's carrying in through, and for the next 20 years now, you'll still see evidence of this. And there are also, at least as many people that I know, that are doing everything in their power to try to work toward the greater good, even if they're doing it with their energy. But everything that they are doing and everyone that they talk to, they try to, as a purpose, do it for healing, or to bring smiles or inner peace to people, to bring some joy to them, to do something right, to show that honesty is good and a virtue, decency is good and a virtue, and unconditional acceptance is good and a virtue, especially as long as nobody steps over that line, So again, like anything else, like faith, like life, like death, it's what you do with it, where your heart is with it, and within yourself too.
Riscala Stevens, he's the host of the Red Pill reality show. One of the things that he says about, the situation that we're seeing in the world right now, not getting political with you, because I know you don't like going in the political direction, but it fits though with this, not only the politics issue, but also all the other issues that we see going on. It's not that it's a good and evil situation. It's not a political problem. It's not a military problem. It's so on and so forth. It's a heart problem. People right now are having heart problems, dealing with the fact that we really do need to remember that we have to have compassion. We have to have, caring for people and having the understanding from their perspective, why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? Instead of me saying, like Chip, when you disagreed with me earlier, I didn't say, well, you can't disagree with me. Oh my God, what are you doing disagreeing with me?
But we love each other, and,
right?
And we're a family, and we have respectful disagreements.
Exactly.
People are asking us our opinions, but here in this specific case, it's a little different. Even though these are passionate beliefs of ours, I look at why I don't talk politics is because it has taken the place of religion now.
Yes,
I see more people watching either Fox News or MSNBC than I do going to church.
Yes, absolutely.
Whatever, regardless of their faith. And the people on the right, it's their religion.
It's
now.
their God.
Hillary is the Antichrist, and the people on the left, it's their religion, and Trump is the Antichrist. And there's Antichrist everywhere except in church, that's where it all started. It's not in the political realm. And the politicians are setting a very poor example, and so is the media, so is the news, so are reality shows. Nobody's compassionate anymore. It's more interesting to be rude to people on reality TV. Yep. You get your point across in politics if you don't listen to what the other side says, if you yell over them.
Absolutely.
Well, they can't listen, Chip. The problem that they have is that their ears are closed, and they've been so thoroughly indoctrinated.
There you go, Daryl. That's it.
Each of these sides of people believe that they're doing the absolute right thing.
Yes, and it's an indoctrination.
Nobody's standing and setting an example is like, no, look, this is a country of people. We all come from someplace else. That's what makes this country so great. We are one united nation of people that come from everywhere. And we stand tall, we stand united, we are working to the greater good, and we're not doing that now.
Right. And you I think you really hit it there, Daryl. It's an indoctrination thing. These are things that are taught to people, from a young age. We're taught to have that division. We're taught to have this and that, but we're not born into that. That's that's not what we're about when we first, arrive, on this planet with our tickets in our hands. That's not what it's about. But listen, guys, we do need to hit a break here real quick.
I'm hopping off, everybody, but I wanted to tell I want to tell you real quick. The reason why I asked you that question about good and evil and how you see it is about your book, Penitence.
Penitence, yes. Penitence.
Oh.
You can never say that word correct. Penitence, Daryl. Penitence.
Okay, I'm done.
Ira, by all means, tell us about your book, Penitence.
So Penitence is actually a really interesting one. I when I wrote that book, I went to a really dark place to write that book. I put some serious catharsis into that book, to say the least. The book is about true love, obsession, abuse at the hands of Christians, demonic possession. I mean, you name it. I've got a lot of stuff that's in there. But when I wrote the book, Daryl is very fascinated by one of the main characters that's in it. His name is Samuel, and Samuel is actually a demonic entity. So I was actually writing from the perspective of a demonic entity, and sort of. Exactly. Or is he? That's the point. So, it's a weird tale. It's one of those ones that, it's a psychological horror. I mean, it's that way for a reason, but, I went into some places that it was very frightening for me to go. It took 5 months to write it. And I think I was actually cursed during the time that I was writing it. 'Cause boy, I'll tell you, life was hell for that 5 months worth of time. So
it must be a really great book. Who published it?
That would be the Neely Worldwide Publishing. I don't know. Maybe
I've heard
maybe
of them.
know
They're
them.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I heard they were some good people. Odin loves them.
Indeed,
I know Odin does. Yeah, if God loves them, then how can any of us mortals not?
If you guys are interested, though, you guys can pick that up at originalworlds.com. I've got all my books over there. I'm currently writing the Eternals game. I'm now writing it from the perspective of eternal beings that are creators of the universe. So I've gone into some strange directions, yes.
Yeah, but it makes for some good reading.
Indeed. All righty. Well, Daryl, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
I love you, Chip. I love you, Ira.
Love you too, Daryl.
Everybody donate to LNM. Listen to these shows. Don't forget, we have Encounters with the Needs Saturday at 7 p.m.
Indeed.
We love you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. They got their own.
We're partying, everybody. LNM is down with the sickness.
They're taking over the network. Oh my God, they're taking it over as I speak. All right, Daryl, thank you. We do have another call that's coming in. Let's go ahead and do them real quick here before we hit the break. I do believe this is Doug that's calling in. Doug, is that you?
Ooh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, your mic's off, brother. Can't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, now we got you.
I have to look at the little red light.
Yeah.
If you got the video.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind tonight?
I mean, I forgot the question now. I had to I called in just a second ago, and all of a sudden the damn computer crashed. So what the hell's going on here? There was the damn Skype update.
Yeah.
And so I rebooted real quick, and now everything's working again.
Go figure.
Slap that Skype around, but hey, I ain't gonna complain because it's free.
Yep, exactly. All righty. Well, we do need to hit our second break here real quick. Doug, thank you for calling in.
Hit the break.
Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it.
I'll mute.
All righty. So when we come back from the break, I definitely want to get into more as far as like the trauma, and I want to get into some more of the positive experiences too, because you've had some really great guests coming onto your show talking about that exact aspect. So I want to make sure to give you plenty of time to talk about all of that kind of stuff. How's that sound to you, Chip?
No, very cool, my brother.
All righty. Well, you guys are listening to Open Eyes. We have Chip Reichenthal with us tonight, and he's a great guest. Love this guy to death, and hopefully you guys do too. Make sure you guys check his show out, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LNMRadioNetwork.com. He took my Monday slot from me, and I'm grateful for it. I appreciate it because it gives me more time to write strange things. We'll be back in just a few minutes. 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. LNMRadioNetwork.com is the chat room.
Data. The sensors can't penetrate the planet's ionosphere. There's too much interference. Can you find a way to scan for life forms?
I would be happy to, sir. I just love scanning for life forms. Life forms. You tiny little life forms. You precious little life forms. Where are you?
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from LNMRadioNetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Dark secrets lie within the pages of Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown. Within the dark of night, subtle sounds can be heard. Unseen hands reach out to touch, stirring echoes of past nightmares and paranoia. In Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown, you will read chilling true stories of hauntings, demonic possessions, and everything that goes bump in the night, as we explore the hows and whys of haunted houses and more. Ira Robinson has not only been a man who has personally experienced the paranormal, but an investigator for many years as well, and brings his expertise to bear on this mysterious subject. What did our ancient ancestors think of the spirit world? What did they do as a response to their own paranormal experiences? Are the tools people use today to communicate with the spirit world not only appropriate, but safe to use? Can the dead return to us in some way in order to help us or harm us? You will find an answer to these questions and much more in Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. Don't be afraid. The keys to understanding are in your hands. Find this book and all of his others at Ira Robinson's official website, originalworlds.com.
When you need a reliable source for your toner, where do you turn? Laser Technologies International Incorporated, your source for quality laser printer, copier and fax toner. We supply a frustration-free cartridge guaranteed not to harm your printer. Delivering 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. We have products for most major brands. Find us on the web at www.laser-technologies.com. Email us at service@laser-technologies.com. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, 561-792-9600. Providing excellent customer service since 1995.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying tonight's show so far. Make sure you guys come on over to LNMRadioNetwork.com. Join in with the chat room. Click on the chat and listen button up at the top of the page. You can't miss it. It's big, it's red, it's blinking. I'm blind. I can't miss it. You got no excuse. Tonight, we have Chip Reichenthal joining us. And I'll tell you what a fascinating topic. What a fascinating guy. He's always so full of great energy. I love talking to him. Every time that I talk to him, I come away from it just absolutely energized. I can't wait to start writing again tonight. So Well, we are back, and Chip,
just sit down there.
Chip, welcome back. Doug, are you still with us there? You had a question before we hit the break there.
Like I said, I forgot. I'm just never mind.
Okay, well we'll go ahead and let you go then, since we got to get back to Chip here. Thanks for calling in, Doug. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
okay, thanks for letting me distract you for a little while.
All righty.
We love it. Thanks,
Talk to you again.
Good to see you.
So, Chip, before we hit the break there, we were talking about like trauma issues and that kind of thing with the spirit realm, and there definitely is something to be said for that kind of thing happening, unfortunately. But there's also a lot of very positive things that have happened with the spirit realm. So you've had a lot of people on as guests with you that go into that positive side of things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your show and like sort of what you do with it in that light, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Kindness Beyond the Veil, that's the name of the show. It's on this network here, Monday nights from 7 to 9, so we gave Ira some extra chance to write during the week, which I'm more than happy to oblige on. But me personally, I've never had a negative encounter with spirit, and that, granted, that's kind of a rare thing, and I don't want to have people thinking that it's all sunshine and rainbows, it just has been in my personal experience, because I learned again from coming into this from a love-based place, my best friend growing up and my father-in-law a few years after that, and friends of my parents and, things of that nature. But I think it's just like you approach a living person who appears a little angry or upset, and if you say, hey, you should smile or something like that, they might not like that so much, but hey, man, you all right? You okay? Gee, and you get the kind of thing where, well, so-and-so has done this and I feel a little bad about that, it's just you can do the same thing. I think a lot of people misinterpret. Look, sometimes you're in places that are thought of as haunted locations, and you have the supposed spirits of people that have done bad things to others, and so people come in with this almost expectation of something is going to go awry, and people meet their expectations. I mean, they get what they seek the most.
Yeah, the prejudices that they're carrying in are the prejudices.
Well, yeah, but I also think that, there is something to the pent-up frustrations of these spirits, which is their pent-up frustration. It's not personal to you.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. Unless you invite that in, unless you say, "Oh, I feel evil here," or "There's something bad in this room,"
And I think a lot of times too, Chip, the experiences that I've had that would be maybe classed as negative by people weren't actually negative. It was just the perception of it being negative.
Sure.
But when I look back on it and realized there was actually this other aspects of things going on, I realized it wasn't negative at all. it was actually, I came away from it learning
I have come
something,
across spirits that were a little peeved.
Yeah.
For that's a family-oriented word. Yeah, a little bit on the peeved side, but I know they weren't peeved at me per se.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on your approach. Look, we've been into some forts up here where I am in upstate New York. There was, we had French and Indian War, a bit more so than Civil War activity as far as wars go. You come across spirits of Indians, and again, I'm not going to call them Native Americans because they weren't called Native Americans in the 1800s or 1700s or 1600s when some of these wars went on. But they weren't happy to see me as a white person, and I understand perfectly why.
Yep.
So I just said, look, I get why you wouldn't be happy to see me, but I've always had respect, for for the Indians here.
I've even had to
You're
deal
closer
with
to spirit than I ever was, and I'm almost jealous of that.
I've even had to deal with my ancestors that have gotten ticked off at me and were leery at me because I wasn't of the same tribe. I mean, the tribal stuff was such a prevalent thing during that period of time too. You know, you had these others that you were against in every way, you know, and there was, pillaging and everything that was going on. I mean, it was there, you know, it just is the way that it was
there. But I mean, when we left that encounter, they still weren't happy. But they're not pushing me down a flight of stairs. They're not coming at me for any reason, you know. I've seen the spirits of people thought malevolent, you know. Again, a lot of it was approach. They weren't malevolent at me. We've had fascinating encounters. I was in this place once. I led a group of people. It was in one of these, it was like a hotel that was thought haunted, let's just say. Well, you came across the spirit of, I mean, you could feel these pockets of cold air brushing, you know, just brushing around everyone. So, I mean, everybody in the group knew that something was there. So we took some of our, it wasn't a spirit box, but we had some devices that we used, and we had a good conversation with them for about 40 minutes. We had some laughs, you know. We ended up thinking this would be somebody we would have loved to have known in life, and we even said as much. And then we left that area, another group came in, and within 10 minutes, somebody in that group got attacked, you know, and this was the same spirit that we were laughing with and joking around with, you know. We found out where he was from. He was a minister, if I remember correctly. And, you know, funny guy. So again, it really comes down to approach. I mean, why would somebody that we left, you know, in pretty good spirits, no pun intended, you know, attack somebody within 10 minutes in that same room with that same spirit? At least I believe it was the same spirit. So again, it's a lot on how we approach them, I think. And I don't know that many other people that never had negative encounters, but when I bring guests on, the guests that I have on are people that I looked up to. You know, you spend enough time at these paranormal conventions and, you know, things of that nature, or you get to know people in the industry, whether they've been experts for a long time, or they're in radio also, or they're on TV, or have written books, or, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of different people, but there are a lot of people that do face this from a benevolent place. You know, we also have people. There are new topics in the industry that maybe 2 years ago I was not really paying attention to. Topics like ascension or light workers, star seeds and indigo children, you know, things of that nature, and which fascinate me because it's finding a divine energy within yourself that you can use to heal others or carry yourself, raise yourself to a higher vibrational energy, and all the fears stuff and all the depressing stuff just kind of doesn't bother you anymore if you can find a way to work to rise above that sort of thing. Monday night this coming, we're talking extraterrestrials and UFOs.
Oh, cool.
We got this guy, the really cool guy, Robert Miles. He owns a company called Time Stream Pictures. They do UFO documentaries, but he is what we call an experiencer. He had benevolent encounters with extraterrestrials. I've got a woman, let's see, March 14th of next year. We're kind of booked ahead here. Caroline Corey, who has a documentary called ETs, They Made Contact, and she is also an experiencer. But Robert has these fascinating documentaries that he made and books. And a lot of them, they look fear-based on the face of them, and then you watch them and you find, you know, I mean, he's worked with all the most famous people that have had contact, you know, not the TV people with the Mozart hair and all of them, but, you know, I mean, we're talking people that were in the military that were obligated to be put into positions where they had to do this because they were caught metaphorically speaking, with their pants down in the military. And so this was held against them. Well, now you're going to work in our extraterrestrial unit, whether you like it or not. And you can't tell your family about it. You can't tell your friends about it. You can't tell your fellow soldiers about it. You're not even working for that branch of the military anymore. You're working for our branch of the military, and this is what you have to do. And you see these guys, I mean, literally crying because they couldn't tell anybody about the things that they saw. And some of the things they saw just don't make, I mean, it's not what you listen to from most of the military that, you know, said the Roswell crash was a weather balloon, you know, that type of thing, or the, you know, we've never had contact, you know. I mean, we're in a different day and age now, and we're, I think, in large scales of time, moments from really discovering that we haven't been alone. I think that point is coming. But Robert Miles here, his ultimate goal is to teach people that they're not all out to get us. They're not all evil. It's basically me with ghosts and spirits. You know, it's him with extraterrestrials and UFOs.
Well, you know, that brings up a question. We had a question that came in from the chat earlier for you, and I hadn't had a chance to ask it, but this brings it up really well. Why do you think that a lot of times the UFO field and the paranormal field, the spirit realm, seem to be meshed together so much? You know, they should be considered separate topics, but they seem to get, you know, thrown into the same pile so often.
No, that's an excellent question. You know, the simplest answer is that they're based on things that we don't understand, and we generally fear what we don't understand. And entertainment industry preys on those fears. You know, it's good for business. I mean, you know, it's been going well since, what was it? Dante's Inferno, Paradise Lost. These are publications that filled churches because all of a sudden you got levels of hell, and there was that fear, and boom. And it was very, very good for religion. It's very, very good for drawing crowds together and raising money. And it's very, very good for sponsors and entertainment.
Putting butts in pews.
Yeah, because, you know, look, my show is all about kindness, right? But I wouldn't necessarily watch a lot of shows about kind people doing kind things either, you know. We just slow down past that motor accident, you know. It's just it plays to our closet nature.
People really are inherently rubberneckers, and this whole thing it really
but they're also faster to believe that something that is thought supernatural or unnatural or alien is out to get us.
Well, you know, I think some of that has to do with our minds. You know, one of the things that I talk about in my book, When Good Relationships Go Bad, is how, you know, we get addicted to emotions, and how the mind, it evolved, you know, our mind, our brain, it evolved to do one thing and one thing only, to survive, you know, and it'll keep you in whatever circumstance you're in just because you're currently alive, and therefore it's doing its job. But one of the problems that goes with that is that we're skewed towards the negative when we look at anything that's in our lives or anything that's around us as a survival instinct. You know, we had to pay attention to the lion's roar on the Serengeti or the roaring of a gorilla in the jungle because, you know, otherwise we're going to die if we don't pay attention to that. You know, we have to look at those negative things, you know, or things that would be considered to be negative. So, and we still carry that with us today. I mean, the same chemistry that runs through our bodies when we're afraid of something is the exact same chemistry that was running through our ancestors when they were running around on the Serengeti. So it's the same motif, you know, the same fight or flight actions that end up occurring.
But it's not just that. And what's the name of that book again, Ira?
When Good Relationships Go Bad.
When Good Relationships Go Bad.
Yep.
I normally go to a Julia Roberts quote from a movie called Pretty Woman, which most everybody has seen, where she looks at Richard Gere and says, it's easier to believe the bad stuff about you.
It is, yeah.
Because he asks you, well, why is somebody like you working the street? Well, it's easier to believe the bad stuff, you know?
Exactly.
And people look at their lives like a picture and say, what's wrong with this picture? What don't I like about this picture? And again, like you said, it's what we're brought up to do. And drama does impact us even on a cellular level. I got a
It does.
guy, Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Cellular biologist and just an all-around really great guy. He's pretty famous. One of my dream guests from an earlier broadcast, earlier show. And he actually traced, where the brain of a cell is. We always thought it was in the nucleus, but it's actually in the cell wall.
Yes.
And this is not as boring as it sounds. And there's tens of thousands of receptors on these cell walls. Most of them seek out protein and nutrients, as you would think. But some receptors seek out emotions.
Yes,
and
they
they
do.
become addicted to emotional stimuli, especially. We all have people that we call drama queens, guys or girls, doesn't matter.
Yep.
We all know one that are just addicted to drama, but they literally are addicted to drama on a cellular level.
It really is.
I think part of the reason for the Kindness Beyond the Veil program is because you can not only say, well, I'm not gonna believe that about myself anymore, but you can also rise above that sort of thing and start, I guess, I think a good example is people, before I got married and I was having, problems finding a love relationship, and they all say, well, as soon as you stop looking, that's when you find love. And it's like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life, because I'm looking in my sleep, first thing when I wake up, I'm looking. I mean, every minute I'm looking, whether I think or realize it or not, I'm looking. I mean, that just didn't make sense. But then I started working on myself, putting myself in a better place, spoiling myself, taking care of myself, building myself up, working on me. And I got to a point where I was so comfortable with myself that I didn't really need anybody else. And lo and behold, that's when it happened. So it's kind of like that.
Chip, I just got to say, you've read my book, haven't you? I swear you have, because right there you were just describing my chapter, Ooga Booga and the Power of One. I mean, that's exactly what that chapter is all about.
You're a heck of an author.
But, in that book, I was talking about exactly that kind of stuff, the addictions, the cycles of addiction that we go through, emotionally speaking, are truly there. I mean, it's like our bodies are really, they're amazing. These meat suits that we're wearing, these really are amazing things. They're wonderful machines, but again, they're machines, and the machines can become a little gummed up with strange things if we let it. We're not really even this body, though. I mean, again,
once the machine stops working, you still have the soul.
Well, and there's that, but also this body isn't even fully ours anyways, because we're walking colonies of bacteria and viri and protoplasms and
trillions of cells,
exactly,
all of which are looking for emotional stimulus. So you can become addicted to happiness. It takes a little more work because it goes against what society's teaching you. It goes against what school and parents and church and neighborhoods are teaching you,
because again, they're skewed towards that negative, right?
Yeah. Yep. And you get addicted to happiness, and I'm not saying, smoke weed or snort stuff, to find it. I mean, happiness within yourself, happiness. You can find areas of comfort, but you have to seek them in order to find them. A lot of people are seeking this. Why they're thinking that the aliens are going to automatically be bad and the ghosts are automatically going to be bad because every person that they've ever met is automatically going to be bad. That's the way we're kind of brought up, and we're automatically going to be bad, and we have to fight those urges and yada yada. But you can really get past that. You really can. And so if you're looking for benevolent encounters, even with supernatural forces, they're there to be found,
Well, one of the things
might be my answer to the chat question. I'm not sure.
In a very roundabout way, yes, indeed, and I love it because you're absolutely right with it. One of the other things I think that goes on with all of this stuff, all of this, whether it's the other side, whether it's the lives that we're living right now, whether it's benevolent or evil or whatever the case may be, so much of what we do is based upon perceptions that are based in non-understanding. Like we don't understand everything. And so the things that we go through, we look at it from this perspective of not understanding, and then we build this belief system that then we can't get away from because of cognitive dissonance. It just goes on and on from there. You know, it's a rough situation.
The understanding when you tell yourself, I don't understand this, I must be so stupid. Or is the not understanding is I don't understand this, I'm going to have to research it and look into it and find out more about it and ask other people what they think.
Exactly. You know, and one of the other things too, when you were talking about, you know, seeking happiness and that kind of thing, I think one problem that ends up an issue with a lot of people is that they really are happy. It's just they're used to seeking out happiness. So that in and of itself is kind of an addiction.
And you were just touching on something, and I don't mean to cut you off, especially on your own show. But there is something called a self-fulfilling prophecy that I always thought was one of the most major instruments in personality. And that is based on belief and preconception. Everybody is living in their own reality, and their own reality has to do with things that they were taught growing up, things that they believe now. But more importantly, predicated on what they expect to happen is what they will make happen. Self-fulfilling prophecy is like, gee, I think I'm coming down with a cold. And, you know, and they're fine throughout the course of the day, and their throat gets dry, you know, for 1 minute, and they go, aha, see, I knew it. I knew I was getting sick. So there could be 1,000 things that disprove them, but nobody wants to be wrong, especially in their own mind. So a self-fulfilling prophecy can be a very dangerous thing.
We don't even know our minds that much. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, everything that we do, every decision that we make, it's made through this filter of all the experiences that we've had from the moment of conception forward, you know, and it's...
But we can consciously change our own behavior.
Exactly. We have a choice in the things that we decide to do, and that's sort of my whole premise behind when good relationships go bad. To go back to that a little bit, you know, not trying to, you know, toot my own horn with the book or anything like that, but
hey, you have the right, man. You deserve to toot your own horn. I say go for it.
You have choices in everything that you do. I mean, everything is a choice, literally. And although you might be addicted to that current cycle that you're in a relationship or in your job, or I mean, everything can be an addiction. Literally, everything can be an addiction. So, but we can choose, and it's a conscientious choice every day that we make. Okay, let me give you an example. Earlier, I was talking about how, you know, I tried to commit suicide 33 times, and I got to the point where I realized, okay, something wants me here. I don't know what the purpose is, but something wants me here. And so what I had to do was I had to learn how to get out of the behavior that I was in before and into something new. So what I did was I came up with every day in the morning, I would write down all the negative things, the things that I perceived as reasons to do it. And then I would write down all the reasons not to do it. And I promised myself, I made this pact with myself that if I had at least one thing on the reasons not to do it list, that day I would not do it. And I would do this list in the morning, basically as soon as I woke up, whether I was in a good mood or a bad mood. It didn't matter. I did it every day regardless, because I wanted to train myself, because I knew if I could do it on the good days, I'd already be habituated to do it on those bad days when I didn't feel like doing it, you know? So by the time everything was said and done, you know, I got to go through this quickly. I just saw what time it is. But by the time everything was said and done, you know, I made myself this pact that I would decide not to do it on that day. So the decision for that day was already made. And if the thought came up in my head, you know, look, you need to do this, just get rid of yourself, I told myself, no, I already decided today is not the day. Stop, you know, quit bothering me. I've got to go do all these other things. So not only did I have the the change happen in me to get away from that kind of way of thinking. But I also had this laundry list of things that I perceived as being wrong in my life that I could work on item by item and change for the better. You see what I mean?
I do, but it took a lot of fortitude to do that.
It did, yeah. If
it were me, I would have said, boy, I've tried and failed 33 times. I must really suck at this. I'm going to try to do something I can do better, like baseball or kickball.
Yeah.
You know?
But see, again, there was an addiction. It became an addiction for me to be in that frame of mind.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
You felt like you didn't deserve to be here.
Yep.
And you worked very hard to make that happen.
Yep.
And something came around and said, well, look, there obviously I must be wrong because I've tried so many times and I'm still here. There must be a reason that I am.
Yeah.
And it's that change of mind, that change of frame that is the thing, to where all the people say, I'm so depressed. How can I snap out of this depression? I'm so angry. How can I snap out of this anger? I'm so self-deprecating. How can I stop this? You make a conscious point to change your vision, and to how can I fix this? How can I change this? With the everyday depression or anger or fear, with all the stuff that is just real life right now, sometimes it's just as easy as meditating once a day. Because it's hard to find bliss when there's 1,800 things on your mind, So you can clear your mind, come to a relaxed place, and people say, I don't have time to relax. I don't have to. I'll make the time. And if people love you enough, they will give you the space for 20 minutes a day to do this. And this is where you can find a blissful place and a peaceful place. And once you find that peace, you want to continue finding that peace, and you can find it even throughout the course of an active day, but again, like you said, you only really find what you're looking for, what you seek, and focus on what kind of things you do seek. Do you seek fearful things? Do you seek depressing things? Do you seek dramatic things, or do you seek bliss and joy and calm? You change your focus, and you can change your life.
Chip, this has been a great show. I love having you on. I've got to have you on in the near future. I'm so grateful that you had the time to end up coming on with me tonight, and that it worked out in the way that it did. I think that the people have gotten a lot of really great things out of tonight's show. We didn't just talk about spirits. We talked about all kinds of great stuff.
Oh, we go everywhere in the world.
We do indeed. Chip, we've got about a minute left. Now, in this minute that I've got left, I've got a question that I ask every guest that comes on to my show. I ask this of everybody. So you've got about a minute to answer.
Okay.
If something were to, God forbid, happen to you, what would you want to have people hear as Chip's final message? What would you want humanity to be left with from you?
Be better to yourself and others. Positivity is a great cause. If you do things in your own heart for the greater good, you can't do wrong.
What a great answer. 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can find Chip's show, Kindness Beyond the Veil, right here at LNMRadioNetwork.com.
Right here.
The archives are here as well. So if you guys have missed any of his shows, you guys can go back into the archives and check them out. I highly recommend it. Chip, love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Love
tonight.
you too. Hey, say hi to Michael for me. Wish him my love, will you?
I will do that. Thank you, and we will talk to you again soon. Hang out. I'll talk to you here after the show for a minute.
Okay, brother.
So there you guys go. Chip Reichenthal, really great guy. So love his work. So love the things that he's got to say. And hopefully you guys enjoyed him tonight as much as I did. If you guys want to go to the archive of this show, if you missed any of it, or if you want to hear it again, head on over to my website, OpenEyesNetwork.com. You guys can find the archive of this as well as all of my other shows over there. It's also going to be archived on YouTube. That's youtube.com/C YouTube.com/Open Eyes Network, or just search for Open Eyes Network in the search bar there on YouTube. If you want to send me an email, you can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. And if you guys want to meet us on social media, we are everywhere, all over the place. Open Eyes Network on all of the different social media platforms out there. If you guys want to check out my books, I highly recommend you check out my books. I would love for you guys to check out my books. Head on over to my website, originalworlds.com. You guys can find find all of my books there, not only for sale, but I have a lot of free stuff available there as well. Free stories, writing tips. If you guys are up-and-coming writers, I've got writing tips, advice, writing prompts, all kinds of great stuff there. It's not only a site for help, but it's for inspiration as well. I love to inspire my fellow authors out there to do great things. So hopefully you guys will check that out. Again, originalworlds.com. I do have my new book, Penitent. It just came out here November 10th. You guys can pick it up on over there at that website, as well as my book, Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. I covered a lot of stuff that we talked about on tonight's show in that book. So yeah, make sure you guys check it out. Until next time, keep safe out there. Have fun. Thank you so much, as always, for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.